It's time for the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX. On your radio at AM 940 and online at mywithersradio.com. Recognized by the Illinois Broadcasters Association as one of the premier radio feature programs in the state. You're about to roam the region with more guests and content courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. Live from the Powerhouse, the Saturday Sports Show starts now.
And good morning. Glad to have you with us. WMIX, mywithersradio.com. Another edition of the Saturday Sports Show on a beautiful Saturday morning here in the King City. 8 minutes past the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Glad to have you with us. Chris Hugo with Danny Zawinski, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
We'll have a lot of scores to run down from last night's action in high school football. Felt good to get every game in on Friday night, at least those that were regularly scheduled. It was a great night for high school football. Temperatures right around the 60-degree mark last night. Clear skies. Just a beautiful night to get some games in. Mount Vernon Rams, of course, fell last night by a final score of 48-16 to the Althoff Crusaders. We'll talk with Jared Trainer about last night's game, a game you heard here on AM 940, watched online at mywithersradio.com. And, of course, we'll also talk with Sesser-Valier, Waltonville, Woodlawn head coach Johnny Hollis. We'll talk about their game today against Vienna-Goreville on the road down there in Johnson County. Tim Kuhn, Nashville Hornets got a big win last night over the Sparta Bulldogs. Homecoming there in Nashville. We'll talk with Justin Townsend of the Fairfield Mules. His team a big win over El Dorado last night. John Shadowens, the WMIX sports correspondent, will join us in the 9 o'clock hour. We'll talk about the game he took in last night, and at Jonesboro and DuQuoin. Ended up being a great one there in the Mississippi. We'll also talk Waltonville golf with Alan Haley. Of course, that's a little bit later on in the program, but we feel we have a pretty action-packed lineup for you coming at you today. We'll also talk a little bit about some of the fall postseason assignments in terms of which team is going where in your favorite fall sport. We'll talk about that. Obviously, we won't know football for quite a few more weeks yet, but we'll talk volleyball, golf, and cross country, see where your team is going. Here today on the Saturday Sports Show for their postseason. We know volleyball is going to be very interesting, golf to be interesting as well, so is cross country in terms of which team will be going where for their postseason. But all of that said, we do need to run down some scores. It was a busy night of high school football last night. We do have our scoreboard.
First for the Ram opponents this year, Rochester beat Springfield 56-31. Mascoutah lost last night to Highland 23-20. Triad from Week 3 will play Waterloo at 11 a.m. this morning at the Edward Jones Dome, home of the St. Louis Rams. And Week 9 opponent Mount Carmel beat Breeze Mater Dei 48-13. In the South 7, Althoff, as we mentioned, beat Mount Vernon 48-16. Centralia over Carbondale 48-26. And Cahokia beat Marion 28-14. All three road teams winning in the South 7. Benton over Heron 36-30. Harrisburg with a late touchdown, last few seconds, 28-25 over Murfreesboro. And West Frankfort beat Massac County 21-14. Counting total, that's three more road teams that won last night. In the Mississippi Division, Nashville over Sparta 35-20. DuQuoin over AJ, 15-14. Carterville over Pinckneyville, 43-32. DuQuoin, Carterville, road teams that have won. Fairfield over El Dorado at home, 30-28. Chester over CZR, 60-0. Johnson City over Alvarado Trico, 46-0. And Carmel over Hamilton County, 49-12. If you're keeping track, that means 9 of 13 road teams won games last night in Southern Illinois in the South 7, River to River, and Black Diamond. Other games and scores of interest from last night from around the area: Carlisle over Breese Central, 31-19. Olney over Flora, 44-12. Allblong over Red Hill, 39-12. Casey over Edward County, 49-8. Lawrenceville over Newton, 40-14. Mattoon over Mount Zion, 33-30. Charleston beat Effingham, 46-7. Cumberland beat Palestine, 6-0. O'Fallon beat Alton, 48-13. Belleville West over Collinsville, 42-0. Edwardsville big over Granite City in a shocker, 63-3. Also Columbia over Westland, 49-6. DuPo over Redbud, 44-6. As DuPo continues to put up big points. And also an interesting score, Tuscola beat Decatur St. Teresa 14-2, which is kind of a shocker.
Wow. Of course, those are two significant programs in Central Illinois, DST and Tuscola, of course, a battle of teams that have made some deep postseason runs in the past. But, we look ahead to Week 5 already, and it's hard to believe that at halftime next week it'll be halfway through the high school football season. But a lot of interesting games in the South 7, a great rematch from last year in Althoff and Centralia. That one went down to the wire at Althoff. Should be homecoming at Evers Field this time around. Carbondale will be at Cahokia, and, of course, your Mount Vernon Rams will travel to Marion to take on the Wildcats. You can hear that game on AM 940. 640 is your pregame. Video will be online at mywithersradio.com, so we'll have video online as well. But it could be an interesting Week 5. It looks like we have seen an interesting Week 4. We do have a couple of games going on today. Sesser-Valier, Waltonville, Woodlawn will be at Vienna-Goreville in a battle of co-ops down there in Johnson County. And you know what? For the Red Devils, we'll talk with Johnny Hollis here in just a moment. That's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be a good test for a much-improved Vienna-Goreville team in terms of the Red Devils going down there and seeing just where they stand right now, struggling to open the year. But, you know, Saturday afternoon, different type of atmosphere. Vienna's just a different place to play altogether. It should be a good one for the Red Devils.
Vienna is coming off that big win last Saturday afternoon at home against Fairfield. So I'm interested to see if they are able to put that behind them and also to get back down to ground level and take on a Red Devils team that's off to the 1-2 start. So I'm interested to see how that matchup goes today. It's a different atmosphere. You got to get on a bus. You're playing on Saturday afternoon, kind of like the playoffs with the time and the date and the weather and the playing on in a sunny Saturday afternoon. The question will be if Vienna-Goreville can win. If Vienna-Goreville wins this one, watch out. If Sesser-Valier wins this one, some people might think, well, Vienna-Goreville had their one big splash last week. Who knows what they can do? So a game with a lot of season-changing predicaments on the line, and as of after next week, next Saturday at this time, your 0-5 teams will officially be eliminated from playoff contention next week.
That they will. And you take a look at the Diamond schedule for next week with Chester at Johnson City. It's Rivals Week in the Black Diamond Conference. Week 5 always is. But you have Chester at Johnston City. You'll have Fairfield at Carmi-White County. That means Hamilton. It's going to be one of those days. Hamilton County travels to El Dorado. And the game we were just talking about, Sesser-Valier, Woodlawn, Waltonville, Vienna-Goreville. Sesser will be at Christopher next week against CZR, and then Vienna-Goreville travels to Elkville for the Alvarado Trico Co-op. And, kind of a tale of two different things there. Sesser-Valier goes into that meaningful game. The Hyphen Bowl, as you named it many, many moons ago, the Hyphen Bowl next week between SVWW and CZR. That should be a dandy. Two heated rivals over the past eons, millennia. Should be a good one.
Well, it's a rivalry game. Everything's thrown out. There's been some different outcomes recently from what people thought from 1 week, 1 year to the next based on this rivalry. Everything's thrown out. You don't even plan records. You don't even plan the week before. You don't even plan the Thursday before. It's what happens on that Friday night, and it'll be at Spanfield next week. And then, obviously Fairfield at Carmine rivalry week. Chester at Johnston City. Of course, Chester replaced Carterville. That's going to be a good matchup as well. It's one of those, and you go back to today. If Vienna can win today, they're 3-1, and they have Alvarado Trico on the road next week, which Vienna should be heavily favored. You're 4-1. Also, a side note to that Vienna-Goreville game today is the fact that Mike Rood is going for career win number 200 as a head coach. Now, the coach at SHG won his 300th last week, but Mike Rood, with a win today for Vienna-Goreville, will get his 200th career win as a head coach, including stops at Vienna, Johnson City, Marion, among others.
It's impressive. I mean, because many coaches would love the opportunity to have 100, let alone 200, and Coach Leonard's case up there at SHG, 300. But, man, congratulations when that takes place. So, we do need to take a break here on the Saturday Sports Show. We'll have Jared Chainer to come. I suppose after the break, we'll talk Mount Vernon Ranch football. Coach Jared Chainer coming up on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
Whether it's 3G Wi-Fi, in-dash navigation, a power sliding rear window, or one of over a dozen other cool available features, the 2012 Dodge Ram 1500 is full of innovations that you may have lived without, but will soon wonder why. Hi, Roy Schmidt, Dodge dealer at King City Chrysler Center, Mount Vernon. And for those who might not be tech savvy, the Ram 1500 also boasts in-floor storage bins and available 2-tier center console and the available Ram Box cargo management system. Wow, there's something for everyone in the 2012 Dodge Ram, and now you can get $1,500 rebate plus 0% financing for 84 months. Stop by King City Chrysler Center at 1603 Broadway in Mount Vernon and see one of our sales associates about driving away in a new Ram or any new or pre-owned Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep. Plus, see our inventory on KingCityChrysler.com and find us on Facebook.
Southern Illinois has a new home for the Dan Patrick Show, Jim Rome, and Fox Sports Radio. The new 1300, The Fan.
I like that.
Dan Patrick.
I don't think it's good for the sport for Tiger to lose. You know when he's back? When he's holding a trophy from a major.
Sports talk, fueled by fans.
Hey, golf guy, let me give you a piece of advice. Here is one thing you never, ever want to say. I never play this badly.
The new 1300, The Fan. Another Withers broadcasting station. Online at 1300thefan.com.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
There you go. And, of course, we welcome now to the program Jared Shaner, head coach of the Mount Vernon Rams. The Rams lost last night to Althoff. Of course, that is history. Of course, we had that game for you on WMIX and MyWithersRadio.com. We look ahead to Marion Wildcats, among other things. Coach Shaner, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
You know what, doing pretty good under the circumstances. I know last night, obviously, returning home, opening South 7 Conference play, you'd love for things to have gone a bit differently, but I do think we saw some positives last night in the turn, and especially when looking at senior quarterback Clayton Reeves. I thought under the circumstances had a great night last night, and I thought he showed tremendous leadership in that when things got tough, he didn't give up and still tried to find ways to lead this team to offensive chances.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some positives to take from it, and it's tough when you're struggling and the wins aren't coming. Doesn't mean that everything's negative and you're not doing anything right, and that's definitely not the case. And but Clayton, it was great for him to be able to come back and throw a score there after an interception and just play better and ran the ball really hard. Had a few designed quarterback runs, and he's a good leader for our team. He's never going to quit on the kids and the coaches, and I think people, the other kids follow that. And we got a great group of kids. We got to get better between the white lines. They're a great group of kids, and fun to be around, fun to coach. We just got to keep working.
Speaking of a great group of kids, I go to your running backs last night. It seems like your running backs have taken on the mantra of when that ball is snapped, they are running hard right out of the gate. It's not a wait to kick it in gear. What do you credit that to with your running backs playing like they are?
Well, I think we got off to a little slow start, I think, running back-wise, and we've really challenged them the last week or so in practice. Coach Gadisky works with the running backs and does a good job, and they've responded, and I think, we could go, basically position by position, and our kids play hard. I don't doubt that at all. We talk about that, and that's part of it, just going out and playing hard, and they'll make mistakes, but, be aggressive when you do it, and our running backs did a nice job. I thought C.J. Lloyd really probably had his best all-around game of the year, had a nice kickoff return, a few nice runs in the run game, and blocked really well, too.
Speaking of blocking really well, your offensive line, I noticed last night your team had several good runs, not the outside, but also to the inside. I thought the inside running game worked really well. That credit to that offensive line. It
sure is, and that's not an easy thing to do against Althoff, and really nobody this year has done it consistently. They have Merrick Jackson, 74, who's 6'4" and 360 pounds. He's going to the University of Illinois to play football. And a couple other D linemen that are pretty darn good themselves. So we kind of challenge those kids, and we line up at center, guard, and guard. Our biggest kid's about 202 pounds. So when you're giving up 160 pounds to somebody and at least fighting and giving everything you have, that makes the coach pretty proud.
Speaking of being pretty proud in the situation last night, towards the end of the game, you have other guys that are in there playing in that situation. Very easily for them to come in, let's get this done, let's go home. But it seems to me your younger guys that are going to be back next year or two that are on the roster, they're out there playing really hard, especially late in the game, no matter what the score is, because obviously they're in having their on-the-field job interviews, so to speak.
Right. They do. I've been impressed with that. You know, in a couple of games that our second guys and in some cases third guys get in, they don't go in there and say, hey, you know, the fourth quarter, this really doesn't mean anything. We're not gonna come back. But they go in there and compete. And that's really, you know, again, what you want out of your kids, to go in and compete down in and down out. And I thought our kids did that last night. We, you know, had a couple nice drives with our second group and moved the ball pretty well with them.
Of course, as we look ahead to next week against Marion, traveling down there for the second week of conference play, Marion proved last night against Cahokia they are not infallible. 6 interceptions, 6 turnovers, that is. All of their turnovers were interceptions. Losing last night to Cahokia 28-14. This is a Marion team that may be catching them at the wrong time coming off of a loss, but I happen to think that we're catching them at a good time. This would be a good time down there to try to hand them their second straight loss. How can we do that against this tough Marion Wildcat team?
Well, that's the thing with Marion. You know, they dropped one last night that I'm sure, you know, Coach learned pretty well. And if you have 6 turnovers, that's not a good feeling. It's a healthy feeling. And so they'll come out fired up and ready to go. The thing with Marion is they're such a good football program. They've been successful for quite a while now, and their kids expect to be successful. So, you know, we're going to have to go down and have a good week of practice beforehand, and then go down ready to compete, because I can promise he'll have his kids fired up. You know, they're not feeling too good about what happened last night. But we'll have a good week of practice this week. And, you know, last year I don't sleep a lot on game nights usually. So early this morning, late last night, whatever you want to call it, went back and watched our film from last year. And it was kind of one of those things where we did some good things. It was 7-0. We put a drive together, and actually I think into an interception, the special teams play for a kickoff return or something. Ended up being 14-0 midway through the second quarter, and we were still competing. So we'll go back and look at that some more and hopefully draw on that a little bit.
4 weeks into this, football season's a grind, obviously, as you know. How healthy are the Mount Vernon Rams heading into Week 5?
Well, I think, knock on wood, I think we're pretty healthy. Last night, I didn't get any news on any kids. For the most part, we got, you know, this is the point where you know, everybody's banged up. There's no doubt about that. Knees hurt and forearms and shins, and you got bruises and cuts and all that stuff. But that's just part of football. But I think as far as injury-wise, I think we're okay. You know, the thing that we have to keep grinding away, like you said, and when you're not having that success on the scoreboard, those little things tend to hurt a little bit more, and that's just human nature, I think. So we're going to have to guard against that a little bit and just say, hey, you know what, you throw the record out. You're a football player. You know, we just got to step up and continue to play, grind, and work every day at it.
Of course, you know, after 4 weeks into the season, one thing we do like to kind of do every once in a while is try to check in with the underclass programs. How are the JV and freshmen doing up to this point? Seems like they're doing pretty good.
They are. Both groups have done well. Really, actually, our JV's only had 2 games. We had the Mosquito one that was canceled because of weather, and then our reschedule issues. So they're 1-1 right now. Lost to Rochester, but then got a win just this past week. Played really well, so they have a game Monday night. They'll travel to Altoff to play, hopefully get their second win. And then our freshman group is a very talented group and a good group of kids. They're 4-0 right now. They played the same schedule we have, and basically they played O'Fallon instead of Mosquito. And again, are 4-0. I've had a couple of big wins, and one that was a little bit closer. So definitely excited about those guys and you know what they're doing, and hopefully they'll continue to progress throughout the season. And you know, we dress basically all of our sophomores for varsity, so you know those kids are going to be young varsity kids next year, and they're getting a lot of good experience. And I think what's really invaluable is you know just the confidence that you gain when you're having some success. We've talked about it as a coaching staff and then with the kids, but you know, part of it is just confidence. You've got to go out and be confident in yourself and your teammates and what you're doing, and then success breeds success. So we're very happy that those underclass groups are getting some W's on the board, and hopefully we can follow suit with the varsity next week.
Well, definitely. And, of course, the varsity will be at Marion next week. We'll have that game for you here on WMIX, video online at mywithersradio.com. Coach, you're used to it by now. Of course, our final question, the WMIX social media question of the week. So much going on right now as we are in early September, of course, starting to shift to mid-September. Outside of Mount Vernon Rams football, what do you like to focus on right now? Is it college football? Is it the NFL finally starting to count as far as regular season games? MLB starting to wind down. Where does your sports focus go outside of the Mount Vernon Rams?
There's not a lot of it left over. Mount Vernon Rams football consumes me for this time of the year, but I'm a college football fan in general. As we've talked about before, I like the Wisconsin Badgers, and then also a big NFL fan. I'm pretty busy throughout the weekend watching film and preparing scouting reports and things like that. But I try to sit down with my family and my kids and at least catch, part of a Seahawks game or a Bears game or somebody else that we can root for. So I'd say just kind of football in general is what we do when we're not doing Mount Vernon Rams football.
Well, and with the Seahawks quarterback situation and added that you're a Wisconsin fan, does that kind of help things a little bit for you as far as your interest in the Seahawks?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, right, when I watched the draft this last spring and when the Seahawks took Russell Wilson, I immediately shot a text to my buddy at Wisconsin and, just said, hey, another reason I've been a Seahawks fan since I was a little kid, and them drafting Russell Wilson just kind of gave me another reason to continue to be a fan. So it's exciting to, I guess, watch him and hopefully watch him progress. He's had a pretty good start to the season, but got the Cowboys this week, so we got to go to that.
I just tell you that you won't win that game.
Oh, my, the Cowboy fan.
I forgot we got a Cowboys fan on here.
Yeah, this won't be Tony Romo dropping a snap and you get a gift. This will be a little different this time.
Yeah. I'll tell you know what, me and Danny, maybe we can make a friendly on-air wager of a soda.
That's fine.
Cowboys, Seahawks.
Straight up, no points. I'm not giving you anything even though you're at home.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
Shader, I know you're a busy guy today. Thank you for taking the time to join us every week here, and we look forward to talking to you again next week and hopefully a little bit before as well.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, guys.
That's Jared Shaner, head coach of the Mount Vernon Rams. Great dude, and hopefully Rams can pick up a win this week on the road at Marion. They take on the Wildcats. 6:40 is your pregame. 7 o'clock is your kickoff. MyWithersRadio.com will have the video. Radio home, as always, is WMIX. We've been there for decades. I forget how many now. I think we're getting closer to 6 decades, 7 decades. Can't be 7 decades. That's using somebody else's math. More on that off air. We need to take a break, though, on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Coming up, we'll have Johnny Hollis. We'll talk about the Red Devils, and we'll talk Vienna-Goreville today. That game will be an afternoon game for the SVWW Red Devils. We'll talk about that when we come back after these.
Learn to live healthy, learn to live well, and learn how you can live free from unexpected medical expense with a major medical expense policy from Pekin Insurance and the Page Agency. Health insurance that covers hospital, medical, and surgical expenses offers a wide choice of deductibles and a non-tobacco user discount, too. Rising medical costs don't have to be a problem with a major medical expense policy from Pekin Insurance. This is coverage we hope you'll never need, but you just can't be without. Call the Page Agency at 242-7000 about a major medical health insurance plan today.
The Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois proudly welcomes Dr. Brian Steinke to their medical staff. Dr. Steinke is an orthopedic surgeon specializing in spine surgery, treatment of the injured back, and will provide the newest state-of-the-art procedures in the region. Dr. Steinke is fellowship trained in spine and brings prestigious credentials to the center. Dr. Steinke will be seeing patients at the Mount Vernon and Centralia locations. To set up your appointment with Dr. Steinke, call 242-3778 or visit their informative website at orthocenter-si.com. Discover the difference.
Select a checking account that pays you interest. People's National Bank introduces People's Select Checking. It has all the services you have come to expect from People's National Bank: Visa debit card, online banking, bill pay, and unlimited check writing. And you can earn 0.17% annual percentage yield on balances over $1,000. Visit me, Melody True, at 522 Main Street in Mount Vernon to start earning interest on your checking account.
People's National Bank, member FDIC, $100 to open. Rate may change after account opening. APY is accurate as of September 2nd, 2012. Fees could reduce earnings on account.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Glad to have you along for the ride, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Welcome now to the program, Coach Johnny Hollis of the Sesser-Valier, Waltonville, Woodlawn Red Devils. Coach Hollis, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
You know what, busy day today, obviously. You travel down to Johnson County to take on the Vienna-Goreville Co-op in a Saturday afternoon game. First question I have for you is, a lot of our listeners may not be familiar with the atmosphere they have down there at Vienna. Always a Saturday afternoon game. They don't have lights, but how is that different? It just seems like it's a different atmosphere than anywhere else I've ever been in the Black Diamond.
It is, and you know, they're just getting a program started. I've talked with Coach Rude lately about all the things that he's been doing to try to get that going. I can't imagine what that might be like. But anyway, yeah, when we go down there, you know, it's kind of out in the fields by itself, and there's no locker rooms, and so it's a different situation. But at the same time, you know, it's a good opportunity for us to see what we've got done this week, and I like, really, I mean, with the way the weather played out last week, it's really got us ready to play on Saturdays. So that's kind of an advantage they have too, is coaches trying to get their teams peaking at the right time on the right day instead of Friday night.
I got to ask this, going back to last week, we made mention earlier on the show that Mike Rude's at 199 wins. You got your first win as a head coach last week in Hamilton County. We offer congratulations. How did that feel going on last week?
Oh, it was great. You know, it seems like that first one will never come sometimes, but it did feel good. And but I know that, you know, that's meaningless really in the scheme of our season. I don't, you know, and I told the kids after our win that you know, it's not about me, it's not about my record, it's about them and about them being successful and making our school proud. So yeah, on the reverse side of that, I would lie to you if I said it wasn't a little intimidating going against Coach Rude and Coach Way this afternoon. But at the same time, you know, our kids are playing and we're not. And so, you know, obviously I really don't want him to get 200 against us. But anyway, we respect him, respect what he's done, and what he's done for the game of football in our state.
I think we would have a news story if the coaches were going to play today at Vienna. I think there would be something about that, you know. But
I guarantee you, Coach Rude and Coach Way would have a scheme to get me somehow.
Well, I know that. They would have something figured out, but that would be news to see the coaching staffs play down there today and instead of teams. We know that's not going to happen. You go 1-2 to start. You get that win last weekend over Hamilton County. You go on the road today. And then next Friday night, you got the rivalry against CZR. And we're not trying to look ahead because, you know, you kick off at 1 p.m. today. But right. With that in the mix, a shorter week, you know, a short week going to that rival week this next week, how hard is that for your coaching staff to get those kids ready to go? Obviously, Christopher, they're going to be ready to go at CCR, but a little difficult, a little shorter time. Yeah. I mean, and like I said, I think last week's weather kind of, you know, we are kind of in that routine now. So, you know, it's not normal. This year's not been normal at all. But the routine, I think, is, you know, with the weather changing, it has helped us, you know, with the preparation of a short week or a shorter week. So, yeah, and, you know, we take it one game at a time. I know coaches all say that, and but it's really true. Like I said, we're 1-2. We're not world beaters. We are getting better, but we're still not where we want to be offensively or defensively yet. So we take one game at a time, and you know, every game for us is a playoff game when you get behind a little bit at the beginning of the season. So we don't take anything for granted, and we know we're going against a great team today and in their territory. So maybe tonight, maybe Sunday, tomorrow a little bit, we'll be able to start focusing more on Christopher. But yeah, the kids are always excited every year for Christopher. You know, it's right down the road, and we kind of got a little rivalry. We're trying to renew the rivalry a little bit. So I've heard that there's already a little bit of trash talk going on with some social media between the kids. So I don't know. We'll have to make sure that stays the way it's supposed to be. But anyway, it's kind of exciting. Hey, speaking of excitement, and I look at the Black Diamond through 3 weeks and 4 games, it's an absolute clustered mess. What are your thoughts on this Black Diamond?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, as I was, you know, seeing scores come in last night, I was trying to keep up on that and watching some football, and you know,
I mean, it's a coin toss right now. I mean, obviously Chester's undefeated, and they're a good team. Obviously, they put it to us at third place. We couldn't hold on to the ball again, but man, you never know. It's like I said, it's a coin toss, 50-50, and that's why they play the games. But yeah, I talked earlier in the year with you guys about the balance of power in our conference, and that's and that's one of the things I've been using to motivate our kids is, look, this year, nobody knows what's going to happen until we go play. So that's kind of been a confidence builder for us. And the way I look at it, if we could go and squeak one out today, I mean, who knows, what our season might hold.
Speaking of squeaking one out today, what are the keys for your team in order to come out on top this afternoon at Vienna?
I think we got to play fast. They're bigger than us, and our kids know that, and we've been telling them that. We've not been trying to intimidate our kids, but we've been trying to let them know, what they're up against. We've shown them the film and just told them what we've seen in person. And so I think we got to play fast, and I think our Achilles heel this year is taking care of the football. We put the ball on the ground too many times. It's about to drive me crazy. If you got any ideas on that, let me know. But I think play fast and take care of the football, and I think we'll be okay.
Well, the Hyphen Bowl is what I like to call it. I've called it for years when Sesser-Valier, Waltonville, Woodlawn battles CZR in the old Hyphen Bowl down there. You go against another Hyphen today in this big Black Diamond Conference. As far as the rest of the year goes in your team right now, how healthy is your team heading into this Week 4 game?
I'll tell you what, we are more healthy this year at this point in the year than we have been in a long time. I mean, all of our key players are going to be ready to go today at full strength. I don't know what the difference is, but we are much healthier. Our lower levels, now there's major affliction down there, but as far as our team's concerned, we're pretty healthy right now, and that's been a very positive thing for us too. That when we went in the hole a little bit, at least we were healthy. That was something we could hang on to, and something that's helped us get better in practice. We got our main guy still going full bore. So anyway, that is a major key for us this year.
Final question, as you know, we like to do the Facebook page or our social media question of the week for both Facebook and Twitter. Our question this week is, there are so many sports going on at all levels right now. Besides, obviously, Sesser-Valier, Waltonville Red Devil football, what sport are you paying the closest attention to in your downtime?
College football. I'm a big college football fan. I love to watch the games. I was DVRing a while ago early before I left the house just to watch some games, and you always look for those big matchups. The ranked opponents and things. Last week was killing me. There was no ranked opponents against each other. So, but I love college football. I love what it represents. I love it that they're going to a playoff. So college football is mine when I get time. Time's a major factor. But the other thing, it's not really sports related, but it kind of is my family. I'm a big family guy, and this sport takes a lot of your heart, soul, and mind and strength. And I've been very cautious with myself and my staff this year that we don't neglect what should be first in our life. That's our family. So any chance I get, just a while ago I was playing catch with my little boy in the living room with football before I left, and so those little times during this season are precious to me.
So the rules are chucked at the Hollis household. You can throw footballs and baseballs in the house.
Hey, Mom doesn't like it, but that's kind of what goes on. Yeah.
Oh man, Coach, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Good luck at Vienna Goreville.
Hey guys, I sure appreciate it.
That's Johnny Hollis, head coach of the Sesser-Valier Waltonville Woodlawn Red Devils. Before we go to break and before we get to our next guest, Tim Kuhn of the Nashville Hornets, we can check on some scores.
Hey, let's check those scores. You know what? You told me that, and I'm over here messing with something else. And
I thought I gave fair warning.
Well, you did. I was messing around with some other things over here, and now it's bouncing around on me everywhere. We can tell you that Mount Vernon lost last night 48-16. There we go. Your scores from other teams on the Mount Vernon schedule. Rochester beat Springfield High School last night, the Senators, right next to the Capitol, 56-31. Highland beat Mascoutah 23-20. And Triad and Waterloo will play today at the Edward Jones Dome at 11 a.m.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry to interrupt.
I can't believe either one gave up a home conference game. But
it's
anyway,
worth it.
Mount Carmel beat Mater Dei 48-13. So if you're keeping track right now, Mount Vernon has 2 playoff points in their non-conference with 1 game left to go today. In the South 7 last night, it was Centralia beating Carbondale 48-26 and Cahokia beating Marion 28-14. All the road teams won last night in the South 7. River to River, Ohio, Benton wins again 36-30 at Heron. Harrisburg gets a late touchdown to beat Murfreesboro 28-25. And Frankfort beat Massac on the road 21-14. Queens sweep again by the road teams. Mississippi Division, Nashville beats Sparta 35-20. DuQuoin goes to 2-2, beating AJ 15-14 on the road. And Carterville beat Pinckneyville in the over game of the night 43-32. Black Diamond games, only one close one. Fairfield beat El Dorado 30-28. I picked that one. I can brag on myself. Chester beat CZR at home 60-0, and Johnson City beat El Dorado Trico 46-0. Carmi beat Hamilton County 49-12. So if you're keeping track, the 13 games in the 3 conferences in the area, 9 road teams won last night. And, of course, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, Vienna hosts Sesser-Valier, Waltonville, and Woodlawn. Now, on to some other scores of interest. Carlisle beat Bree Central 31-19. Olney over Flora 44-12. Lawrenceville over Newton 40-14. Mattoon over Mount Zion 33-30. In the Chris Hugo, Danny Zawiski has to start another tradition of playoff Friday nights. Charleston beat Effingham 46-7. That's not our plans. Will be changing on that one. Highland, as I mentioned, beat Muscuda 23-20. O'Fallon wins again. There we go, 48-13
hey,
over.
There we go.
Yeah, O'Fallon's trying to help us out. Belleville West over Collinsville 42-0. Jerseyville over Bethalto 41-14. Go down the list. Columbia beat Westcomb 49-6. Dupo over Redbud 44-6. Greenville over Hillsboro 45-0. Alton Marquette beats South Fork 49-0. Not sure if JR or Bobby are involved in that. And then, of course, St. Joe Ogden beat Clifton Central 14-7. Of course, Clifton Central played Salem recently. And then Tuscola beat Decatur St. Teresa 14-2.
Of course, we need to take a break here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's a great look at your scores. You can find them on Facebook, facebook.com/WMIX Sports. You can always stay up to date during the game, after the game, before the game. I think that covers all the bases regarding the game and prepositions and whatnot. You can follow us on Twitter at WMIX Sports. Don't forget that. Saturday Sports Show is presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. We need to take a break. We'll talk with Nashville coach Tim Kuhn about his team's win last night against the Sparta Bulldogs. It's more than hospital.
That's what healthcare should be.
Thank you. Back after these.
Southern Illinois has a new home for the Dan Patrick Show. Jim Rome and Fox Sports Radio. The new 1300, The Fan.
I like that.
Dan Patrick.
I think if you suck, you should be able to practice a little bit more than somebody else. There should be a sliding scale.
Sports talk, fueled by fans.
It doesn't matter if LeBron wins not 1, not 2, not 5, not 7. The Hater Nation will always be coming for him.
The new 1300, The Fan. Another Withers broadcasting station. Online at 1300thefan.com.
Hey there, I'm Jennifer, and I love living in Southern Illinois. But whenever I got sick, I used to think the best medical care was far away. I had no clue that some of the most advanced medical care was right here the whole time. Good Samaritan is my new hospital of choice because they combine exceptional response times, first-class facilities, and an outstanding patient experience. Good Samaritan partners with physician specialists and invests in the latest medical technology. They deliver the best care where I need it most, locally. Now more than ever, they offer local residents like me a convenient alternative to bigger out-of-state hospitals where I'm a number, not a name. This saves me time, money, and keeps my family close, which out-of-state hospitals will never be able to provide. And in 2013, that care will get even better when they open the all-new Regional Health Center. It's that kind of investment that ensures we'll never have to leave home to receive the care we need.
Good Samaritan Regional Health Center. Raising a hospital, raising the bar.
The tradition of fine vehicles and great service continues at Second Chance Auto. They've been providing quality cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs for families like yours for over 32 years, and many are priced under $10,000. Plus, most have a 3-month or 3,000-mile warranty. Bank rate financing available with instant approval. No gimmicks, no pressure, just honest deals on great vehicles from your friends and neighbors at Second Chance Auto, living and contributing back to the community they serve. Located on Route 142 East in Mount Vernon, or call 244-4582.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski at studio, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
Yeah, it's what healthcare should be.
Oh, yeah, you bet it is. We welcome now to the program Nashville Hornets head coach Tim Kuhn. Coach Kuhn got his first win last night as head coach of the Hornets against the Sparta Bulldogs. Coach, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
You know, we've been talking today about milestones. Coach Rue down at Vienna Goreville looking for his 100th win. You get your first win as coach of the Hornets last night. A big congratulations from us and well-deserved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Speaking of 3 weeks, you've now been in Nashville for 3 weeks for high school football in Illinois. What's been the difference since when you played to now you're coaching at Nashville High School so far?
I think just the overall athleticism of the kids today. I mean, with the weight room and strength conditioning being what it is, just the overall athleticism. I think the spread offense, getting the field not only taken care of vertically but horizontally. It's just a different game now.
Different game, and your team wins last night going away from Sparta. What were the keys to your game last night in order for you to win?
I think it was just pushing through some of the early adversity. We talked about all week. It's something we have to do, and I think finally the light came on for some of our guys, and it just was really a great feeling to watch them, mature and push through that.
Speaking of that and mature and push through that, your team battled some injuries early on, gets this win. As far as getting a win last night, we know it's good medicine for a team to win at any time, but how important is it for your team to get that win now and start making that drive toward getting into playoffs?
It was huge, extremely beneficial. We had homecoming this week, and I was concerned about the distraction of homecoming with all that goes on. Just really proud of our boys and how they, again, handled their business during the week, and then got through some of the rough early going and just started believing what we're teaching.
Speaking of that, I've always wondered about that because high school football, high school experience, both on and off the field, is so important for student athletes. Is homecoming the most distracting week of the high school football season for a coach?
It's got to be, with everything that's going on. We talked about it, starting after Saturday's game at West Franklin. I said, now we turn the page, we get ready. I said, the biggest thing is be involved with homecoming. I want you guys to enjoy the experience, but don't be absorbed by it. The reason we have homecoming is because there's a game on Friday night, and let's put the best football team we can out on that field and not get concerned with the parade and some of the other distractions. And I think our boys did a great job of doing that.
Do you get, as a point of coach, because I've seen, being a teacher in the daytime myself, pep rallies and homecomings and things like that, do you kind of cringe a little bit when the players are asked to do some things that might get them involved in some injuries as well?
Maybe a little, and I've always kind of hold my breath with things like that. But again, I told the kids, I said, let's not be up and down all day long. I said, just again, be involved, but don't be absorbed by the moment. Enjoy it. It's about building memories and things like that. But don't be absorbed by it, by the whole event. Be involved, but don't get caught up in it.
Speaking of not getting caught up in it, you had a win last night versus Sparta. You have to travel down to Carterville next week to play on the turf. Big rolling through the Mississippi Division. You have DuQuoin beating Anna on the road last night. You get a win. Carterville goes to Pinckneyville, gets a win. How balanced is the Mississippi Division right now in your eyes?
I still say it's pretty top-heavy with Anna and DuQuoin, but I think the other teams are right there in the mix, and just hopefully we just continue to get better.
And we hope you get better, too. And we're going to end this, as you know, we had you on before. We're going to end it with a social media question of the week. And this week is, there are so many different sports going on right now at all levels. Besides, obviously, Nashville Hornet football, which you're most concerned with, what sport are you paying the closest attention to right now when you're off time?
College football, hands down. There's nothing like it. There's nothing better.
Any particular team you follow on the side there?
I'm a pretty big Notre Dame fan, so it's good to see Coach Kelly getting them, playing, beating Purdue is good, and let's see if they can build on that.
I love this. You're a Notre Dame guy. I'm a Michigan guy, so you and I will be on opposite fence. I know, opposite fences next week. But are you guys going to quit dating the ACC and actually fully jump in, or are you guys just going to mess around with them a little bit?
I wish I had that kind of pipeline and knew some inside information. I'm a Subway fan, I guess you could say.
Coach, that works for us. Again, congratulations on your first win over Sparta. and good luck over the rest of the season. We look forward to having you on again.
Thank you, guys.
That's Coach Tim Kuhn of the Nashville Hornets. We need to quickly move along. We will take a quick break. We'll come back. Justin Townsend will talk Fairfield Mules football. They had a pretty successful run last night after a surprise loss to Vienna 1 week ago. We'll talk with Justin Townsend when we come back here on the Saturday Sports Show presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
The Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois welcomes Dr. Beth Conrarty to their medical staff. Dr. Conrarty specializes in comprehensive pain management using a multidisciplinary team approach by working with other specialists for optimal diagnosis and treatment of pain. Dr. Conrarty will treat most conditions of the spine, including management of cancer pain. Dr. Beth Conrarty, helping to make life better day after day at the Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois in Mount Vernon. Call 618-242-3778.
Have you ever been traveling out of town and realized you needed cash? Using another bank's ATM can cost you a few extra dollars in fees to get the cash you need. Well, not anymore. People's National Bank introduces MoneyPass. MoneyPass allows you to use over 23,000 additional ATMs in the United States without any fees. Stop by People's National Bank. Visit peoplesnationalbank.com or moneypass.com to find out more information. People's National Bank, providing our customers the highest quality products and services since 1909. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Glad to have you with us. Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski in studio, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
You bet it is. And joining us now from Cell Phone Purgatory, it is head coach of the Fairfield Mules, Justin Townsend. Coach, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today? A big win last night, rebounding from a loss, and it's a big win against a great El Dorado Eagle team. Congratulations on that win.
Thank you. Absolutely huge win for our program last night. On El Dorado's a tremendous team, but just to bounce back after a disappointing second half last weekend at Vienna and kind of get back in the mix of things. So, yeah, it was a huge win for us, big shot on them.
Hey, see, that first week winning streak that you have that I brought up is not hurting you at all right now, is it?
No, it's not. It's not hurting at all. So we kept it going this year. Hopefully we can do that next year. And, and right now we're just taking 1 week at a time, which is what you have to do in the Black Diamond this year. So.
And speaking of the Black Diamond, I mean, it's not its usual self. When you began in your first few years, you had your top-tier teams, your middle tier, and your lower tier. This year, it seems like a free-for-all for everybody, a credit to the balance of the conference, isn't it?
I think the Cell Phone Purgatory just struck in there. We're going to work on getting Coach Townsend back on the Saturday Sports Show here as soon as we can. So we're going to try to get him back on the Saturday Sports Show and see what we can do there. But his team got a big win last night. And
is that something hit the roof?
You never know. There's flying objects all over the place.
King City's got it.
Well, I've noticed a weird infestation of birds around the area. You noticed it last night in the parking lot at Mount Vernon High School. It could have been a random bird, like a hawk might have dropped an animal.
The white birds at Wren Lake flying around. I'm like, why are they around there?
I don't know.
I didn't know what that was.
Well, we'll see. And if not, I mean, it's just one of those things that happens. We experienced Cell Phone Purgatory the other night.
Hey, everybody's experiencing that.
Well, right now I think there's improvements being made to the area in terms of our cell phone coverage, so that's always nice. Well, we're not on cell phone. We're actually live in studio here at the Powerhouse on Broadway.
Yeah.
And we're glad to have you with us as we near the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Of course, still more to come here on the Saturday Sports. Well, John Shadowens, he is our WMIX sports correspondent. We do welcome back to the program Justin Townsend. Coach, good morning. Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That happens.
Going through a bad area. So.
Hey, it happens to us all the time. We experienced a comeback from Florida the other night doing Lady Rams volleyball, so we can totally relate.
Okay.
Hey, back to your game last night, 30-28. El Dorado's been running roughshod all over people. What, without telling company trade secrets, what'd you guys do to be successful last night and get that win at home?
Well, it wasn't that, we didn't by no means did we stop El Dorado running the football. We were just able to get them off the field a few times, got a couple of stops when it really counted. Our defense been all night, but we didn't break. We didn't give up a lot of huge plays. They still had a lot of yards rushing, but, our defense kept us in the game. We had some bad breaks early. They recovered a booch kick. We were down 14-0, and we hadn't even touched the football yet. So our kids were resilient. They battled. They kept plugging. I mean, it was. I used the analogy last night. Two heavyweight fighters just at each other, and our offense got a couple of first downs when we had to. And looking back at the game, I don't know that we were ever in a fourth down situation. I mean, we were never in a fourth and short. We never punted. So, obviously we played pretty well offensively.
I look at your team. How much did last week's game, or you had that second half where you stubbed your toe, go into the experience of getting behind and coming back last night and learning from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, we had some bad things happen last week, obviously. I mean, we were up 2 scores going at halftime, and we turned the ball over 3 or 4 times in the second half, gave Diana the short field, and they're a pretty good team this year, and they're going to make that hurt. The same scenario happened last night. We were down 20-16 going in the half, first series out. We fumble the football, give it right back to them, and they go up 26-14. And just really from that point on, or 28-16 maybe. And our kids just buckled down. That was it. We knew that we can move the football. We knew that we were capable of scoring. It was just a matter of some point in time we got to get them off the field, because they can eat up a whole quarter, eliminate a lot of your plays and possessions. So we felt like, once we got that one stop, got that score, got within a touchdown, there was a whole quarter left of football to play. We felt like we had a really good shot.
I go in the next week, rivalry week in the BDC. Big win against El Dorado at home last night. You have to go to Carmi. How do you get a bunch of teenagers to settle down and focus back in after such a big win last night?
First of all, we told them to enjoy it. Great win, tremendous win. But Monday it's back to work, and we're gonna be up for Carmi. We're always up for Carmi. Whether they're 4-0 and we're 0-4 or whatever, both teams are good. It's always a good football game. I mean, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. We played each other. I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's one of the top 10 oldest. They be settled on the field. So our kids will be super excited. It's a great opportunity. Carmi sounds like they're getting healthy, and they're going to need a win too. So I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game.
Our final question is, social media, Facebook, stuff that we like to ask. This week's question is, lots of sports going on. Besides Fairfield football, what sport are you paying the closest attention to right now?
Focusing in on what to do or what I'm watching.
What sport you like to watch, besides obviously paying attention to Fairfield football?
Well, obviously football, college and NFL, but towards the end of the postseason, I tend to get into baseball. I'm a Cardinals fan, and pennant race is going to be pretty exciting. It's looking like so. When the fall comes and leaves start to turn, I start to watch a little baseball as well.
Hey, I got to ask this. Somebody texted in. You're going to guess who this is. Are you still the all-star player in the 615 league that you played in basketball?
What's that again?
I said, are you still the all-star in the 615 basketball league? I've been asked.
No, we don't do that anymore. So.
Okay, because somebody texted me and said they used to abuse you all the time in that league. And you can guess who.
Yeah. No.
I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. And I know you're a busy man, and want to appreciate you for taking the time to join us while on the road here on a Saturday morning. Good luck to the Mules the rest of the way. And we lost them again, so that takes care of that. Yeah. But unfortunately, there are times when cell phones, great technologies, don't always work whenever we need them to. So there we go. That takes care of that. We will come back with WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowens here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
Backaches, bad hips, rickety knees? Why not try aquatic therapy? The Red Lake College Aquatic Center has more than a swimming pool. Try a 6-lane, 75-foot lap pool, along with a whirlpool 10 feet in diameter and a 10-foot by 20 hydrotherapy pool. Aquatic therapy is very affordable. In many cases, the tuition is waived entirely. With special access and dressing areas for the elderly and physically challenged, getting in the water is easy. Experts are on hand to assist with various areas of aquatic fitness and rehab. Call 437-5321 extension 1207 or visit rlc.edu.
This is WMIX, Mount Vernon, Marion, another Withers Broadcasting Station.
If your definition of local is Southern Illinois and adjacent states, pay no attention to this message. Hi, I'm Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. Others advertise the message of being a local community bank. However, Community First Bank is the only local community bank exclusively serving Jefferson County with 5 locations and 5 ATMs. In short, loans and deposits stay local and benefit you.
Community First Bank with locations in Mount Vernon, Woodlawn, Dix, and Ina. Welcome back to Personal Banking. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
4 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour on the Saturday Sports Show. Glad to have you with us as we head to hour number 2. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
You bet it is. And now is the time we've all been waiting for. We welcome WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowens to the program. Coach, good morning.
Morning. What's up, fellas?
All right, another beautiful day in high school football season. How was your night last night?
Had an outstanding time last night. Took a break from some Black Diamond football and went down and took in some river-to-river action with AJ and DuQuoin.
Seemed like your pick actually paid off. You had a nice close game to attend.
Oh, sure did. Last week saw several blowouts and saw everything high school football was about last night.
Speaking of that, I told you we exchanged texts yesterday. The DuQuoin-AJ playoff game I saw a few years back was one of the hardest-hitting games I had seen. Nothing dirty, just good, hard-hitting football. What did you see last night in your trip down to the pit?
Say one thing that really impressed me was the play-in, play-out intensity of river-to-river, especially these two top schools. I don't think that either one of these squads is the best these schools have had in the last few years, but they're fundamental, and boy, are they intense.
Speaking of intense, and they get after it, a battle back and forth. DuQuoin, great clock management at the end of half with a field goal, take the lead. At that point, did you feel DuQuoin had it, or was AJ still kind of in that ball game anyway?
No, I thought DuQuoin was very fortunate to have a lead at that point, Danny. I thought that AJ had controlled the trenches most of the night, and that continued in the second half. In fact, I think they outrushed DuQuoin by 100 yards, and by my count, they rushed the ball 53 times against DuQuoin. So DuQuoin had to be a bend-don't-break thing last night.
Speaking of that, and you saw Anna play against Murfreesboro like I did, and they were pretty impressive coming back and winning like they did on the double pass on fourth down to pull that one out. Last night with DuQuoin, did you see some of the same tendencies from Anna Jonesboro? Did their game plan change that much with DuQuoin being in town?
It changed, and I saw a tremendous improvement. For one thing, Danny, when you and I were down there, we saw number 44 Reed as their fullback in the triple option. They had Reed moved out to wing last night, and they had the Noble kid at fullback, and he did a heck of a job. And, after watching Brett Dietering here a couple of games this year, I haven't had a chance to watch him in person, of course, in the last 10 years. But watching him, I would rank him right up there as a play caller with some of the best that I've been around, like Ross Babington and Jeff Roper and guys like that just had a knack. Brett Dietering has a knack for calling plays and a tremendous play caller.
Speaking of knack, AJ was 3-0, probably licking her chops to go 4-0, now 3-1. On the flip side of that, Al Martin, DuQuoin was 0-2 to start the year. Went to Heron, beat them 35-0. Last night, get a big win at AJ. How do they do that? Everybody had them like 0-4, and now they've turned around 2-2 and head in the right direction with a winnable games the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, they're not an 0-4 team. I'll tell you that. I think Highland, first of all, better than people expected. Harrisburg, even though they've struggled the last couple of weeks,
quality football team. DuQuoin's schedule is always second to none. And I think that you're seeing the real DuQuoin Indians right now, and, they're going to be in the thick of things, and they have another conference championship for us all over.
Speaking of conference championship, as you mentioned, all three road teams last night in the River to River won. All three road teams in the South 7 won. So out of, when you get to the total, 9 of 13 road teams last night won in Southern Illinois football. What do you make of that stat at all, if there's anything at all about it?
I just appreciate these coaches, because it's so hard to load 16 and 17-year-old kids up on a bus, especially a trip, maybe an hour trip, or like a lot of these river trips are an hour or more on bus, and be able to bring them down and have them that focused to win a football. It's incredibly hard, and for it to happen that many times in one night, that's an anomaly for sure.
An anomaly for sure. And what game? Speaking of go back to last week. What games did you get to attend last week in that weather delayed and lengthened weekend of high school football?
Well, we talked about the Chester and Carmi game. I got to see the first quarter or so of that one, and I guess that game finished much like I had seen it started. Chester just did their thing, and they're the class of White Diamond it looks like right now. And then on Saturday, I took in the J.C. Christopher game and drove down to Marion and watched Marion dismantle a pretty good Harrisburg team.
When you talk about Marion, and you talk about Harrisburg going to that one, Harrisburg has never ran the table first 3 weeks against Mount Carmel, DuQuoin, and Marion. Riding a lot of flow and momentum last week, and Marion just took them to the woodshed. What was Marion doing last week that kind of got Harrisburg out of their rhythm?
Well, they were picking on Harrisburg secondary. Marion had the superior athletes on the edge, and it wasn't that the Lewis kid was razor sharp. I mean, he was throwing a lot of incomplete passes, but Coach Martin just kept going back to it and just kept plugging. He knew he had an advantage there, and all he needed was one play out of the series of 3 downs to be successful. He might throw 2 incomplete passes down the field on first and second down, but then doggone it, on 3rd and 10, they'd convert. And that's the way the thing went for him. It was very frustrating for Harrisburg. Their kids got frustrated. They had a few unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, because of the frustration, I think. And that just epitomized the day for Harrisburg.
Good day, and a bad day for Harrisburg. Harrisburg wins last night at Murphy. Marion, 6 interceptions, loses at home to Kauling. Is that just a case of kids being kids in high school football in general?
I'm sorry, Danny, repeat that last one.
With last night, off of last week's game, Harrisburg goes to Murfreesboro and wins. Marion loses at home, 6 interceptions to Cahokia. Is that a case of just kids being kids in high school football in general?
Yeah, for sure. And also a case of, Mr. Lewis got to see a lot of his receivers running open last week against Harrisburg. Against the athletes of the Comanches, they weren't quite as open. And, I didn't see the game, but he might have tried to fit a ball or two in there that maybe he shouldn't have, with 6 interceptions. He had to make a mistake or two. And coming off the big game that he had against Harrisburg, he was full of confidence. And you see it on Sunday afternoon even. These gunslingers on Sunday that have all the confidence in their arms. They have a good Sunday one week, and the next week they throw 3 or 4 picks.
Speaking of that, we're 4 weeks into the high school football season, halfway point next week. But through 4 weeks, what stands out to you as being something you didn't expect or something that surprises you that hasn't happened yet?
I think the parity in the Black Diamond, for one, would be first and foremost. I'm a Black Diamond guy, and that's what I pay the most attention to. And I love seeing that because, like we've talked about before, the first few years of the closed conference, you had the big 3 with Carmi and Johnson City and Carterville, and it was really hard for the middle-tier teams to crack into that. We were pretty much fighting for that 4th or 5th final playoff spot year in, year out. But, here in the past few years, we've seen some different champions, and we've seen some different teams maybe go 7-2 or 8-1. El Dorado jumped up last year, had a great year. And to me, that the parity in the Black Diamond is one thing, and then in the River to River, I'm not sure after watching last night what to expect out of those guys. I think I heard you mention earlier today parity in River to River as well, and I would have to agree with that.
Speaking of that, they're all the road games this week. Any games you're going to this afternoon, or are you taking the day off?
I believe that my son is going to make me take him to see the Salukis today, and I think that trying to squeeze in the Vienna SV game might be a little much for him. So I think we'll take the day off of high school football and take in the Salukis tonight.
Saluki game on the schedule, Week 5 next week. Deeper into the season, we'll be halfway through next Saturday. What game or games are you going to be deciding between to go to next week?
I don't think that there's any question that, that I think the Black Diamond Conference Championship could well be decided at the new JC Sports Complex on Friday night. So I think watching the Yellow Jackets take on the Indians will be where I'll be.
Coach, as you know from joining us, WMIX social media, the question of the week is, obviously, right now is a time where college football is really getting going. You have the NFL getting started. We'll be in week 2 now when it really counts. We have Major League Baseball beginning. It's kind of it's down its apex to its finish. What do you like to watch right now outside of high school football? Where does your focus lie? Is it college football?
No, actually, it's the NFL.
Nice.
I've got the NFL ticket, and I enjoy watching the Patriots and Bill Belichick every Sunday, and I pay a lot of attention to that.
I kind of wondered, you're our first guy. I mean, Coach Shaner kind of went the route of the Seahawks in addition to college football, but everybody's gone college so far, so it's nice to get a different answer. But what is it about? Is it just Coach Belichick himself, his coaching philosophies that kind of lure you into the Patriots?
It sure is. Coach Belichick, his team-building philosophy, his way of game planning, and it just fascinates me. I've got the coach's film of all the NFL teams as well, and I can watch those every week. And it's just fascinating to watch him put together a game plan and to build his team from the ground up.
Perfect. Coach, thank you for taking the time to join us this week. We look forward to having you back next week as our special correspondent.
Sure thing. I look forward to it, guys.
That is John Shadowens, WMIX sports correspondent here for the Saturday Sports Show. Always a privilege to have him on and get his philosophy. And it's nice really just be able to sit back and listen to what he has to say and get his thoughts, because by him going to different games every week, he has now seen 2 different South 7 teams in Marion and Carbondale along that Route 13 corridor, and now you kind of get his perspective. And with us having seen Carbondale, we'll talk to Centralia coach Ray Kauling here in just a moment. His team played and beat Carbondale last night, but it's just nice to get that different perspective as to what's going on around the region.
I got to think, he's seen Carbondale, Marion, Heron, Chester, Carmine,
he's seen a great
Johnson
deal of the
City.
South 7 plus Old South 7.
Oh, yeah. He's seen a lot of teams. I mean, it's not like he's got his coaching experience. I mean, he's seen a ton, and he's only 4 weeks into the season. The delays has helped greatly. He's seen Anna and Murfreesboro, DuQuoin. So, I mean, he has seen a lot of teams so far. We expect him to see a lot of more, and he just adds so much from a different perspective for us to be our correspondent at high school football games this time of year.
Well, no doubt about that. Speaking of high school football games this time of year, we just wrapped up most of Week 4 action last night. The 6-team conferences, of course, as we'll get ready to check in with our scoreboard. 6-team conferences, of course, getting their conference season started last night. Black Diamond, of course, in the area has been going all season long with their closed conference schedule. Let's take a look at those scores from last night.
Those scores include South 7, Althoff over Mount Vernon 48-16, Centralia over Carbondale 48-26, and Cahokia beat Marion 28-14. Ohio Division, Benton over Heron 36-30, Harrisburg over Murfreesboro 28-25, and West Frankfort beat Massac County 21-14. In the Mississippi Division, Nashville beat Sparta 35-20, DuQuoin over AJ 15-14, and Carterville beat Pinckneyville 43-32. Black Diamond, Fairfield over El Dorado 30-28, Chester over CZR 60-0, JC over Alvarado Trico 46-0, and Carmi beat Hamilton County 49-12. Of course, today is Sesser-Valier Waltonville at Woodlawn at Vienna Goreville.
How cool is it the 2 teams are going to play at the Transworld Dome? Excuse me, Edward Jones Dome, stuck in 95.
It's very cool. Surprised that one of them gave up a conference game.
I think
home
for
game.
that, though, it's worth it. Don't you?
I think if you got to play 2 years where each of them gave up. If I'm a coach, I'd say, okay, we'll play you there this year. If we can play you there again next year,
right.
Neither of us get a home game advantage.
Right.
Go from there.
Sure, I agree with that, but they're only following suit from the team that plays there all the time. I mean, that's where they learn that from. It's learned behavior.
A topic later is the Chicago schools who are on strike. Allegedly, there's a deal.
Yeah.
If that goes prolonged, we'll explain how that could or could not affect the playoffs. But that's for later on in the show.
Well, that'd definitely be great to talk about. Of course, Chicago Public League, Chicago teachers being on strike, how that impacts the Chicago Public League schools. And they have kind of an interesting playoff scenario anyway. And it may all be for naught. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on the Saturday Sports Show. Again, a guest we just booked, actually, during the show, Ray Kauling, Centralia Orphans, will join us here in just a moment. Alan Haley, Waltonville golf coach, still to come here as well. It's on the Saturday Sports Show. We hope you'll stay tuned. We'll take a break, come back. Ray Kauling, Centralia Orphans head coach, here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. This is Matt Watercutty with Dale's Harley-Davidson in Mount Vernon, and I love that saying because it describes what we do and how we roll every single day. Well, listen up. We're living up to that saying with an amazing event on Saturday, September 22nd, starring Ill Conduct for the most incredible heart-stopping stunt riding you've ever seen. There'll be 3 exciting stunt riding shows at 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and 3 p.m., along with tattoos by the Bearded Lady Tattoo Parlor. There'll be great food by Bugsy Chicago Dog, excellent music, and prizes too. You don't want to miss the stunt riding by Ill Conduct, Saturday, September 22nd, only at Dale's Harley-Davidson. We're the longest-running Harley dealer in Southern Illinois, just off I-57 on North 44th in Mount Vernon. Call 618-244-4116. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or visit us at dales-hd.com. Remember, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911. Southern Illinois has a new home for the Dan Patrick Show. Jim Rome and Fox Sports Radio. The new 1300, The Fan.
I like that. Dan Patrick. Do you think the commissioner has made a mistake?
The facts that have been presented thus far do not back up the punishment that's been levied.
Sports talk, fueled by fans.
And the NCAA would have even less credibility and legitimacy than they don't have right now.
The new 1300 The Fan. Another Withers broadcasting station. Online at 1300thefan.com.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Glad to have you aboard, courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Yes, it is. And, of course, we welcome now to the program Centralia Orphans head coach Ray Kauling. His team a big road win last night to open up, well, everybody on the road last night, I guess, in the South 7 Conference won. But the Orphans beat Carbondale. Coach Ray Kauling, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
You know, doing pretty good. We kept a close eye on your score last night, 13-0, 13-8. Then it becomes like 40-10. I guess they had some touchdowns late. Other than that, a big win for the Orphans on the road to open South 7 play. Now you're 4-0 on the season, looking for 5-0 and a great rematch next week against the Crusaders. But before we get to that, last night's game against Carbondale, I think people thought maybe Carbondale on a roll coming in 3-0 as well, had a nice win over Waterloo the week before. I think people thought maybe that one would be a little closer than what it should be. What did the Orphans do last night to really turn on the offensive firepower? And then what did they do to kind of keep the Carbondale offense at bay?
Well, I think, first of all, I mean, all the credit goes to the kids. They bought into what we were preaching all week, and it seemed like we finally understood a little bit about what how defense was supposed to be played, and when we read our keys and we did what we were supposed to do, we played really, really well defensively. I think we gave up. I think Carbondale had 3 points and 87 yards at halftime, and when we pulled our starters, they had like 155 yards of offense and 10 points. With like 8 minutes to go in the game, something like that, when we pulled our starters. So we felt really, really good about how our kids played defensively, obviously, and honestly, offensively, I thought we had a really nice game plan. Our kids executed it very, very well.
Speaking of executing very well, getting down to Carbondale, long bus ride, a lot of hype between the two teams, both teams 3-0. How are your kids engaged in that, as not to let that hype be a distraction?
Well, I think more than anything for our kids, I think it was an opportunity to show that, it's the first conference game. Last year wasn't a fluke. We want to be there at the top of the conference, and I think that we just took advantage of an opportunity to stay focused and to try to prove to people that we're not just an offensive team. We can play defense as well.
Playing defense, you guys can rack up the points. It goes without saying with your offensive stars. Defense starting to take shape, as you mentioned. How important is that going to be? Because obviously you're going to play teams that are going to give you more fits when you have the football. How important is that going to be as you go down this stretch and make that run toward the playoffs?
Oh, it's immense. To be able to get some stops. I mean, think our kids have ever, they've never won quite like that, where they played really well defensively and they played well offensively in the same game. And our kids were having just an absolute ball, in the fourth quarter, looking up as we scored on defense to make it 48-10. We ran a fumble back, and our kids come off after we get the 2-point conversion, and there's smiles on their faces. Coach, this is fun, is what you hear from them, and I tell them, yeah, because you're playing the way you're supposed to play, and it was so much fun as a coach, and to look out at those kids last night and just see, one, how much fun they were having, but two, that they were getting it. I mean, and that's why we do what we do as coaches, because you want kids to improve, and you want to see them, you want to see the look on their face when they finally get it, and I think maybe last night was one of those nights.
Getting it last night, starting out 4-0. The next couple weeks, 3 weeks, down the stretch, toughies all the way through, Althoff, Cahokia, Marion, Mount Vernon, Mascoutah. Murderer's row of schedule going on as far as all these teams are going, whether it's by record or rivalry. Tough to keep things focused. How are you and your staff going to keep these kids focused and in line over the next few weeks?
Well, we kind of take a workman's attitude with it, and I think that our kids have started to grasp that as well, where, Monday's a work day, and, we got to come back, and, we give them Saturday, Sunday off. We come back Monday. You got to be ready to go towards the next one. We learn a little bit from this one. Watch the good, watch the bad, from last night's game, and then, start focusing on what, the Crusaders are going to try to do, and, and see if we can improve again. There's always room for improvement. I think our kids get that. I mean, I think they understood last night. We were extremely happy with our play last night, but we always want to keep working even better.
Of course, you take a look at the Orphans around the Horn. Rashad Campbell gets a lot of the ink in the opposing communities. You do have 10 other guys out there at a time. Tell us a little bit about some of the other stars you have on this team right now.
Well, Diamond Sesser-Valier, our quarterback, had a really, really nice night last night. Managed the offense extremely well. I don't know if he had positive yards rushing or not, but he was 9 for 15 throwing the ball and for 215 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's pretty dang efficient. I can't remember the incompletions. They weren't too bad, really. I mean, one was on the last play of the half and off the fingertips of the receiver, just overthrown. And he just did an outstanding job of managing the offense. And, Mason Watson, a wide receiver, had a pretty decent game last night. Chase Alcorn, a wide receiver, had a pretty decent game. Trevor Jerkis had a real nice game as a wide receiver last week. Not much last night, but I think that's just the way it goes. And then our fourth receiver last night was Matisse Scott, who had a nice game. Caught a couple touchdown passes, and he's just a sophomore. I mean, some good things could come from that young man. And then our guys up front offensively are Calvin Miley and Mark Pozick, Jason Boyer, and Dustin DeKalb, Drew Shores. And Dustin and Drew go both ways, so that's quite a task for them to play offensive line and then play defensively as well. But they're up to the challenge, and they get it done most nights. So.
Of course, we look to next week against the Althoff Crusaders, rematch from a game last year that went down the wire. It was played at Belleville West due to renovations at Lindenwood. This year it moves to Evers Field. I believe it's homecoming night for the Orphans. Obviously, the atmosphere is going to be great with your recent success. As you go in 4-0, they come in 3-1, both of you undefeated, even though one game in the conference. How do you kind of convey to your kids, many of them returning starters from last year, that, hey, we barely got this one last year, we still got it, but we're going to be on our home field now, and this is a must-win for us. How do you convey that to kind of keep that momentum rolling to go to 5-0?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do, and this is kind of one of my philosophies as a coach, you got to bring them in on Monday and knock them down. You got to pull their heads out of the clouds. You got to slap them, and use the metaphor, slap them in the face, and make them realize this is a new week. And last year we had a lot of trouble holding on to the ball over there that night in Belleville. We had like 5 fumbles, or we would have won that game pretty handily, I thought. After going back and watching that film, but yes, we need to find some focus, and we talk a lot about focus every day and every week. Mental focus and physical preparedness are the two. It was one of the sayings I like to use every week. But we just got to make sure we get that done. And if we do, I think our kids they'll come ready to play Friday again.
Our final question this week, as you know, is our social media question of the week. And this week's question is for you. Besides Centralia football, there's so many other sports going on at all levels in the sports world right now. What sport are you paying the closest attention to in your downtime away from Orphans football?
There isn't much downtime away from Orphans football, but when there is, it would be either college or NFL football because it's just that time of year. And the days where I don't have to be in the building at school or whatever are Saturday and Sunday, obviously, and what's on Saturday and Sunday, college football and NFL football. So that's my relaxation if I get any.
Well, I certainly know it's not easy to relax this time of year, Coach, but thank you for taking the time to join us. I know you try to sometimes take the day off on Saturdays, but I know you're always a busy man, so thank you for adding a lot to our program today, and we hope to look forward to talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot for having me.
That is Ray Kauling, head coach of the Centralia Orphans, and I think his reputation speaks for itself in terms of success that he has had, and the turnaround that they've had. Lost 35 straight games, I believe, up there in Centralia. Then, since he's been there, I think a 3-6. 8-1, that evolved into 8-2, of course, because they lost that playoff game. But now 4-0 on the year. So out of their last 14, they've won 12.
It's not bad.
That's a nice little turnaround. His career mark at Centralia would then be, if he's 12-2 in the last 2, 3-6, he's 15-8.
Yeah,
that's not bad. I mean, it's just helped turn this conference around. I think that's one thing we said when we found out that was going to be the hire in Centralia was, you have now turned Centralia, you have now turned everybody in the conference to a threat night in and night out after going so many years where you took a look at Marion. Marion would be a struggle night in and night out. They bring in Kerry Martin. He creates a culture down there, quote unquote. And things have just evolved. Dan Kester now bringing his style of play to Carbondale, kind of an Effingham style. So, success abounds in the South 7 Conference. Tougher conference makes it a better conference on game night. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll shift gears a little. We'll talk some high school golf with Alan Haley. He is the head golf coach down there at Waltonville High School. See how things are going there in Spartanland. This is a Saturday sports show presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
Yeah, it's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
The state of denial is a drag and a trial. When I bought my cheap insurance, should have known this day would come. Now I've had an accident and I'm feeling quite alone. Called them at least 20 times, but they won't pick up the phone. Without personal service, my policy's kind of worthless. Get to a better state, State Farm.
Don't deny yourself to call an agent. Tony Wilt in Mount Vernon, 242-1421.
Protect yourself and the ones you love by getting a flu shot at the Medicine Shop Pharmacy. It's the smart and healthy thing to do. Just walk right in. No appointments necessary and no prescription from your doctors required. The shot is covered under Medicare Part B. Here's pharmacist and pharmacy owner Eric Black.
We have a seasonal flu shot event, which is not just one day, but usually 4 or 5 days that we schedule nurses to come in and give shots. I can also give shots to anybody who can't make those specific days, for example.
Get your flu vaccine between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Save these dates in September, Tuesday the 18th and 25th, and in October, Thursday the 4th and 18th. If you're homebound, every effort will be made to schedule a home visit. Call us if you require the service. The Medicine Shop Pharmacy, 2339 Broadway in Mount Vernon.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, mywithersradio.com. Glad to have you with us. Courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Thought about going Shatner for a moment, then I realized that's well overdone everywhere you go. But we're glad to be with you here. You can find us on Facebook, WMIX Sports. Find us on Twitter. Follow us there. Also at WMIX Sports. Try to catch up with Alan Haley this morning. Again, what we've been talking about, cell phones. Sometimes working
what
right now.
All circuits busy.
Circuits are busy.
I mean, something's up with the towers.
I don't know.
Something's going on. It's signal.
I've been getting 5-6 texts from people today,
and I've only
which leads me to believe.
I sent you one, and you got.
So
5
are you getting mine 6 or 7 times? Because that annoys me. Because I'm always worried. Well, if I'm getting 6, 7, 8, 10 of their texts, they're getting 5, 15. Hut, mine. Blue 42.
I'm getting texts. I got all kinds of texts last night. It's just that I'll be driving along in a metropolis like this and lose a call. Or something's going on somewhere because All Circuit's busy tells me they're really messing with things. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. You know what? It's one of those deals, and you deal with it, and you move on. I know.
4G's coming. It's just a matter of what they're doing with it to get to that point.
Yeah. And we'll figure that out. We'll straighten that out. And, of course, you know, when you think about Spartans golf, and I hate not to talk the topic whatsoever, we'll try to, if we can't catch up with them today, figure out what's going on in the world of technology and come back with that a little bit later on. But Waltonville has what I consider to be a pretty good high school golf schedule. I know they opened their season the girls' side with Mount Carmel. But you take a look at the boys' side, Sandoval, they had a quadrangular with Pinckneyville, DuQuoin, Heron, Johnston City. There's some diamond play, of course. Hamilton County. The girls take on Nashville. I mean, they don't really shy away from anybody, and that's what's good to see. I mean, you know, the boys and girls both play Woodlawn a couple of times, and, you know, you look at Oakville on the boys' side. So some good tests on this golf schedule for both the boys and girls at at Waltonville High School.
Home meets are held at Indian Hills. Waltonville is based on Indian Hills. Woodlawn moving from Cricket Creek last year to Indian Hills this year. Waltonville and Woodlawn played at Indian Hills, at Wren Lake, too, I believe, to kind of get used to playing on bigger greens. When you're playing with high school, you know, you got to play high school golf. You got to get out and play as many different courses as possible and try to guess where, you know, postseason's going to be. And then once you find out, you have got to get to where you got to go. And again, the more courses you play, the better golf you're going to be. High school golf is such a thing where kids can practice year round and get out the golf courses and play. It's a little different. And Waltonville's schedule this year, as you mentioned, they're playing anywhere from Mount Carmel to Pinckneyville to Nashville to Massac County last weekend. You're playing at Franklin County Country Club. You know, you got to get out and play and set up your schedule to play all these different sites.
The Oakville boys and the Nashville girls tell me what I need to know about Waltonville's schedule on both the boys and girls side. They're not shying away from anybody and teams that they could logically run into in the postseason. I mean, and those are being released, and that's still plenty to talk about here on the Saturday Sports Show. But I think, I don't know. I think high school golf doesn't necessarily get the publicity that it deserves. I think there's a lot of sports at the high school level, tennis, cross country, volleyball, golf, in the fall especially, that maybe don't quite get what they deserve. So, you know, we're trying to work on that here and wish that we could have made things just a little bit better, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out, and we go from there. So it is what it is.
It's one of these. It's what we termed the NCAA the non-revenue sports, because obviously football is going to get a majority of the ink, but there's also some things going on with volleyball, with golf, with tennis, with cross country in the fall that schools get to. You know, cross country this morning in Mount Vernon at the City Park. Summersville Grade School hosting a big invite today. A lot of area junior high boys and girls cross country teams there. Mount Vernon tennis team, girls tennis team playing very well. The cross country boys and girls from Mount Vernon High School at Olney today. Soccer is at Belleville Altoff today for Mount Vernon. There's a ton of girls volleyball tournaments today. Crab Orchard, Effingham, Massac County, all kinds of tournaments. There's many more places than that. Granite City that have volleyball. So a lot of these other sports, you know, golf tournaments, the Mount Vernon Rams and Lady Rams golf teams are up at Salem today in a match play tournament, which I was discussing with another member, media friend of ours in the week, and it is a match play event today at Salem, much like you'll see the Ryder Cup in 2 weeks. And a lot of high school teams don't do a match play format. I know Mount Vernon participated in a match play in best ball down at Carbondale for 18 holes, and they're going to play match play. That's something you don't see very often as a match play in golf. It's good to see Salem doing that today, you know, to add that in, because, you know, you don't hear the terms four ball and match play very much until you get to the Ryder Cup, and people are like, alternate shot, what do you mean four ball and all that stuff? So again, we want to promote all the sports going on. That's what we do on our social media, is to get out there and get, you know, these sports that, you know, obviously we're trying to cover and we're trying to do our best as everybody else, but we want to make sure that spotlight gets shined on them as much as possible.
Well, and then, you know, taking a look at things and how they are going right now, of course, we take a closer look at high school football. We do go ahead and preview next week. I think Mount Vernon Rams, of course, will be at Marion South 7 Conference play. Also in the conference, you do have Centralia hosting Altoff. I believe Carbondale heads to Cahokia, because I do believe by rule in South 7 Conference play you have to be able to at least have your second game in the conference. By then you have to have had a conference home game, and so it does alternate like that. It's funny how that works out, and that's often why you don't see the South 7 schedule rotate very much, and why it has worked like clockwork over so many years. But That said, there's a lot going on in Week 5, but will there be Chicago Public League football in Week 5?
Well, allegedly this morning there's been a tentative agreement. They're allegedly going to vote on things this weekend. But in conversations this week, I emailed the IHSA to find out what would go on, because obviously you use Chicago schools, you're going to have multiple schools in a little area that play each other, and I was questioning, well, what happens if both teams play? Well, what happens to the playoff points, whatever else? Well, what would happen is if School A and School B played each other last night and they were both on strike, obviously they both get a loss because they can't play. Neither one get playoff points, and you have to get, if you play Team A or Team B, you get a playoff point for that because they lose and you actually beat them. But very complicated thing. And what would happen is if this strike prolongs, I don't know where that came from.
Something like that.
You have to at least have 8 games played in order to be considered. So if this thing goes on, which I don't know if it will or not, there's too much political pressure going on right now. If this thing goes on long enough where a lot of schools get eliminated, you would see an effect instead of top down, where the bigger schools fill in at the top and they work their way down, push people down. You would see a reverse of bottom up, where some of your borderline schools would bump up into another class above because they would need teams to fill in the larger classes where these Chicago schools aren't filling in. But we're still several weeks away. All the schools in the Chicago area this weekend that are on strike will forfeit. So that will play to some big-time playoff point effects as well.
Usually doesn't work out too well.
No.
From what they tell me.
That's the preview. Can they get an agreement and then they get kids back on the field? But, you mentioned games around here. Althoff at Centralia, that's a game of the week next week probably in the area. Another game of interest, Pinckneyville at AJ. Pinckneyville 2 losses in a row. AJ a struggling loss last night at home. Fairfield at Carmi. That's going to be a huge game for Carmi.
Yeah.
Chester at Johnston City, another battler for the game of the week. So you have some several big games. And, of course, as I said earlier in the show, next week at this time we'll start eliminating the 0-5 teams from playoff contention.
Taking a look at, of course, other games going on. If you take a look at the Apollo Conference, Effingham at Salem. And, Effingham has put up or shut up time now for the Hearts. I mean, a team that has gotten used to making the postseason, and a team up until last year that was used to hosting a Friday night first-round game. Now you kind of wonder, Salem obviously a little bit more favorable matchup at this point. That'll be a home game for the Wildcats, and I know thoughts are obviously with the community of Salem with all that had happened this week, but that could be an interesting one. Mount Zion, of course, also 0-4 to start the year. They take on Paris on Saturday next week, and things are a little surprising in the Apollo Conference. I don't think anybody expected Effingham and Mount Zion to go 0-4 to start the year. I think you kind of expect maybe one or the other, but both are 0-4 to start the season. I don't know if that's happened. I don't know the last time that would have happened, if it has happened.
Mount Zion was in the quarters or semifinals last year, played Charleston. So to go from that to 0-4, whoa, that's a quick turnaround.
You talk about a roll. How about Charleston? Get that win over Heron last year in the postseason at home, and then they've just been rolling ever since.
Yeah, and now they're a force to be reckoned with.
Because I think we all down here just assumed that, Jason Carnes' Heron Tigers would go up there and roll through Coles County, and it didn't quite work out that way. I remember listening to that one and just thinking, wow, what is going on? And, Charleston, the Trojans have been very tough ever since on high school football. And don't get me wrong, they have been a successful football program over time. I remember going up there and getting and just basically coming home shocked in 2007 in the second week of the postseason, a surprise loss for the Mount Vernon Rams. And, taking a look at other conferences, Cahokia Conference, Carlisle, Columbia, Red Button, Freeburg, Westglen, Dupo.
That conference is down.
Yeah.
I'm one
it's
of the
Columbia,
big backers.
Columbia, and Columbia.
Yeah, I'm one of the big backers of the Cahokia Conference and have been for quite some time. And for this year, that they have it's not been the same Cahokia Conference that we all know and love that have come through Southern Illinois and knocked off teams that are 9-0 with 6-3 records.
Really, when you kind of get a feel for Southern Illinois football right now, you do look at the Mississippi and Ohio sides of the river to river, and that's not quite up to the ilk that we're used to from those two.
This is no disrespect to any high school football team in the area, but I'm not sure, and I mean the three conferences that we particularly cover, and then we'll go on to periphery. I'm not sure in the three conferences in Southern Illinois, unless something breaks the right way if Althoff somehow manages to finagle their way down to 2A,
sure,
then that's a team that could go a long distance. I'm not certain there's a team in this area that can get to maybe, Mount Carmel, Mater Dei, somewhere like that too, where they can get maybe to the quarterfinals. I just don't see a team down here having that shine about them to make the semis or up at the turf at Champaign.
Well, and that's the thing, is because, you look at the South 7 Conference, well, South 7 football is pretty good. Well, when you have the CS8 coming down, you have the Big 12 coming down, and granted, more of a Mount Vernon might run into a Big 12 than maybe some of the other ones, with Mount Vernon being the largest in enrollment. But you look at, the Althoff maybe dropping down to 2A, and they automatically become a contender to make a deep run in that postseason just because of the level of football they play in night in and night out.
Althoff's probably up there negotiating the Chicago teacher strike, going, hey, we need to get this done because they're another team that would bump up. You go through in the last few years teams that have bounced up and down. Mount Carmel, they're close. Harrisburg, they're going to be close. Althoff's going to be close. Mater Dei's going to be close. So those teams are like, hey, get that thing settled, because they would be teams, if they'd make it, they would get sucked up a little bit, and those borderline schools that dropped down last year would go back up. Now, in the case of a Marion, who's 5A, and there's some teams up top that would not make it, they'd go into 6. I'm one of those that think going somewhere in Class 6A is way easier than going somewhere in 5A, because you get away from the private schools in the central and northern part of the state.
Right. I mean, I remember a year what year was it? I think it actually was 07, where I was hoping the Rams would go 6 instead of 5 and not have to worry about the Kokias and seeing them again, and not have to worry about everybody who at that point was up. Unfortunately, did not work out that way, because 6A that year looked to be a little bit, I don't want to say, you never want to say a class above is going to be easier, but it did look like at that time that maybe things would be a little bit easier in 6A. But it's all about perspective, and it's all about getting the wins necessary to get it to the postseason. We'll see how the teams do next week. Should be a great week in high school football, and I know we're looking forward to talking about it next week on the Saturday Sports. We need to take a break. When we come back, I believe we have a lot of postseason assignments in terms of fall sports. So we'll preview some of those, see who's in what regionals and which sports. It's all coming up on the Saturday Sports Show, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
We're back after these.
I'm Kevin Snyder with a look at your next rad weather. Times of clouds and sunshine today, high of 77. Tonight will be partly cloudy and cool, low 47 to 51. A pleasant day tomorrow, times of clouds and sun, high 77. Monday will be partly sunny with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm around late in the afternoon, high of 78. Next rad weather from WMIX, Mount Vernon, Illinois.
America is a nation on wheels. Everyone has at least one automobile. We use them for shopping, work, everything we do. But they can be a threat. Some accidents can't be prevented. Your professional Pekin Insurance Agency, Page Insurance on Crownview and Mount Vernon, can help protect you from a large financial loss when an accident happens. Call Page Insurance today at 242-7000 about low-cost auto insurance from Pekin Insurance. Ask them about the many money-saving discounts that are available. Depend on your hometown professionals.
Pekin Insurance.
Southern Illinois has a new home for the Dan Patrick Show. Jim Rome and Fox Sports Radio. The new 1300, The Fan.
I like that.
Dan Patrick.
What are you bringing back for us? I'm singing a couple of gold medals. There should be a couple of them just hanging around. These guys go to the bar and put it down.
Sports talk, fueled by fans.
The best smack talker in all of sports lost to the best fighter in all of MMA Saturday.
The new 1300, The Fan. Another Withers Broadcasting Station. Online at 1300thefan.com. When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And welcome back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Glad to have you with us as we do take a look at some of the other postseason assignments now. Probably going to start in high school volleyball just because as far as top-of-mind awareness, that's the one I do remember the most at the moment because I forgot to pull them up during the break. So that's an epic fail on my part. But we take a look at some of the volleyball assignments now. You have a super sectional in Class 3 that will be in Salem. Teams in our area will primarily feed into a Murfreesboro sectional. And we, of course, the Mount Vernon Lady Rams, will be in the Centralia Regional up there at the CH Arena. So that is interesting, especially when you look in terms of who will be joining the Mount Vernon Lady Rams up there in Centralia. You do have the host Annies. You also have the Benton Rangerettes, the West Frankfort Lady Redbirds, and the Mount Carmel Lady Aces in a 5-team regional. Wow.
Times they are changing.
You bet they are. Old South 7 needs to get back together.
Times they are. Yeah, I know.
Not all of it, some of it.
Somebody we know, I was talked about last weekend at the Spartan Scramble about scheduling and whatnot, but
hey, I'm just here to tell you right now, if some of these teams in the old South 7 start going 3A maybe next year and across the board in some boys and girls sports, I'm all for getting them back on the schedule. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, everybody, I think most people would be. Here's the thing. Last year, Heron goes 3A. They were the first one to go. Next year, we're looking, we won't say yet because it's not official. We know things can change in the offices at Bloomington. But right now, you're looking at probably 2 more teams from the River to River going 3A in lots of sports next year. The way the cut system is, the way things are being done, it's going to look more and more probably like volleyball. And volleyball this year, obviously last year it was Mount Vernon, Marion, Carbondale, Centralia, Heron. That's been blown up. You don't have the South 7 Conference Tournament +1 now. And like you said, Benton and Frankfort come with Mount Carmel. Interesting threesome there. Benton obviously with a history of good volleyball, and Frankfort a good history as well. And then you throw in the fact that Central and Mater Dei are going to have to play each other to get out of a regional, when normally they're up at Bloomington running around together. So those eliminate those. Althoff is in another regional at Muscuda. That sectional at Murfreesboro would be drive-down worthy if the right 4 teams get in that thing. I mean, you're talking about some volleyball powers. If you get out of your regional and the Murphy sectional and head down to the, I think, what is it, the Harrisburg Super? No, the Salem Super. If you can get out of your regional and the Murphy sectional and you're at the Salem Super, you have earned every bit of it. Get that far, and you are a quality volleyball team in Class 3A.
Oh, definitely. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And you take a look at some of these other teams that are in which regionals, and I'm gonna run these down just because I think it's interesting to see who is where in Class 3A. And we look at Class 3A right now in terms of, because we broadcast Lady Rams volleyball here on WMIX. You look at that Harrisburg regional; it has Carbondale, Harrisburg, Heron, Marion, Massac County, and Murphy. You take a look at Muscuda, Althoff, Cahokia, Columbia, who bumped up this year, Freeburg, who bumps back up this year, Muscuda, and Waterloo. Here's where teams may not like what has happened. Central, who is 3A now in volleyball, has to meet Mater Dei, who is 3A via the multiplier, at the Mater Dei Regional. However, Highland and Triad are there. Here is where you have a gripe. If you are the Salem Lady Wildcats, you are headed to Mater Dei, bypassing Centralia because Mount Carmel bumps you out. But you can't. But because of the sites, you can't send Mount Carmel to Harrisburg because you then make it a 7-team regional. Because Muscuda's a host,
well,
it's tough to send Carbondale there or Murphy. You could, but that's a tough argument.
Should have sent them to Olney. Mount Carmel should have went to Olney.
Hey, there's another sectional. Hey, let's look at that. They could have, and that had been a 6-teamer, and you're fine.
But I don't understand why they didn't do that and then bring Salem down to Centralia. But, again, sometimes geography is a lesson not learned well in the home box office up there. But, how about this? If, like you said, you got to go over there to Salem's got to travel, and then you have Olney, who, if Olney wins, they'd have to go to Springfield for a sectional match. Yow.
Yikes.
And again, I can't really say too much about postseason because you never know who applied and who didn't.
Exactly.
So if SHG was the only one to put in, guys, hey, have fun, you earned it. But this is one of those that, wow. I mean, I'm sure nobody cares if they win a regional and go play the sectional. Nobody does, but, there you go.
Of course, on our map, if you take a quick look at 1A, most of our teams feed into the Wayne City Regional, Weber Township, Christ-Our Rock, Odin, Sandoval, Wayne City, and Woodlawn. That feeds into the Lebanon Sectional, which feeds into the Valmeyer Super. in terms of 1A in our local teams. We can't, of course, forget about the Sesser-Valier Waltonville co-op in Class 2A.
Mhm.
I believe they feed into a Nashville sectional. It's just a matter of remembering, I think, Christopher
Regional. They're in like a river to river Mississippi deal. They are at Christopher with DuQuoin, Pinckneyville, and Sparta. So Christopher and SVW are the 2As, and then DuQuoin, Pinckneyville, Sparta are your 2As as well from the river to river.
You want to talk changes, just with what class expansion and evening out the classes has done. Nashville goes from a 2A super site to being a sectional host, and that sectional winner meeting the Cumberland sectional winner, Cumberland
Yes.
former 1A team, in the St. Anthony super sectional. St. Anthony, because of their success, is back to 2A.
Times change.
In that level,
This
at that
new
sport,
multiplier / enrollment / thing that the IHSA has done the last 2 summers has changed the games dramatically for several schools, and it has changed the game dramatically for ADs and coaches as far as getting ready, setting up a schedule, and getting your team ready. You know, we were talking on the phone with a local volleyball coach last night, and we were trying to coordinate some things and said, hey, we're going to Effingham today because we know it's coming. We knew it was coming. We needed a schedule to go play because, as I think volleyball is going to have to do, there are some South 7 schools that are going to have to look at their schedule and go, hey, we can't play these teams. We need to dump a couple of these and get some of these river-to-river Ohio teams on because that's who we're going to have to play to get out. And that's what this other area team's doing. They're going to go down and play some 3A schools in Effingham today because they want to get some practice and competition before they get in the postseason.
Well, and then you take a look at just everything going on in volleyball. I was looking at cross country, maybe venture into that, if not today and later time, because we're going to have all fall to analyze this. But this is why we're asking these coaches that we have on, how do you feel about this? Because this has impacted things so greatly, and we'll eventually catch up with Tony Phelps of the Benton Rangerettes. He's had tournament after tournament after tournament. There's a guy who seems like he's had everything dealt to him. In the old 2-class system, he got shafted with Althoff one year in the McLeansboro Super because Althoff, that's the year they went from AA to A. I think it was 2004-2005 school year. So he gets stuck with that. He's likely making a second state run in consecutive years, 03 and 04, if that doesn't happen. But now he's up in 3A. He's back with Central, of course. Mater Dei got a reprieve from that for a couple of years. But you take a look at that in the Benton Rangerettes, Danny, a team that's been very good along with Murfreesboro and others here in a time here in the South. But he's up in 3A now. What becomes actually maybe a very winnable regional for the Benton Rangerettes and Centralia.
Very winnable. I mean, they could win that, but then that sectional is going to be tough. And another thing that goes into hosts and sites and everything else is with all the changes going on, even the IHSA forgets sometimes. I won't say who or where, but a local school's been asked multiple times to host a 1A volleyball regional. Problem is that school's not 1A. They're 2A.
Right.
So even they don't get it right. Last year or the year before, where in golf, like some schools were hosting 1A regionals and they were now bumped to 2A and they had to flop around. Mount Carmel, Murfreesboro, I think. Murphy was in that as well. So it's hard to keep track of, but again, if this is the way it's going to be, and the IHSA seems to be setting it up this way, at least in our neck of the woods, you're seeing that schools are going to have to change schedules. And it's not only in the main sports that everybody likes to watch, but in all these other little sports as well, volleyball and cross country and golf and everything else in general. You got to change. It affects track, it affects golf, it affects tennis. Everything's affected down the line, especially as volleyball. And again, I think as this school year goes on in the next summer, when schedules are released for the next school year, you're going to see several schools changing up and changing games and telling your opponents they've had on schedule for, hey, we can't play anymore. We got to go play these teams because these are teams we're going to see come postseason time.
Well, and it's just interesting to see how gears have started to grind and been shifted into other directions with the changes that have been made. We're probably not going to have time to give cross-country or golf today the talk it deserves in terms of how they've been impacted. We will continue this throughout the fall because you're going to find more and more coaches who either don't like the new system or some do. And it's funny. I don't want to say funny, but it is funny to see where they are along the line of enrollment. A lot of the coaches who are upper enrollment that might slide down or might see some of the smaller teams come into their class salivate a little bit over, and it's hard to fault them for that. But, I think back to an interview we did over the summer with Albany East Richland head basketball coach Rob Flanagan to get his thoughts on now being 3A in boys basketball, and, he gave some nice thoughts on that.
There's a lot of people have some, quote, nice, end of quote, thoughts on the situations going on. We know a couple teams, couple coaches in basketball especially, they're sitting there wringing their hands right now because enrollments have come out. Because now, and I could be wrong, but I think either it's already happened or by the end of this month, you turn in your enrollment for next sports season. So when you turn in your enrollment for next sports season, that's your enrollment for next year. And there's a couple schools in it that we know of that are looking to bump up into 3A, and at this point would not go back down. And at that point, you have to ask yourself, well, we're going to have to make some schedule changes because we don't have a 3A team on the schedule. And or you don't want that week off before postseason starts. So lots of things going to have to be talked about and done between ADs and coaches in multiple sports at schools as far as scheduling goes. And we're seeing a trend, and I think it started this past spring with baseball, softball, how it was divided up. Now you're seeing it in volleyball with the changes going on. I think it'll go into basketball and other things. And, again, unless something changes, football is still going to be the same old way with a lot of teams looking for games. I still see, if things don't change in football, schools that have trouble scheduling games will end up playing each other twice, like Heron and Massac did, because now the precedent's been set.
You bet, and I stole the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say to add to that. But, and closing thought on that as we are about out of time here on the Saturday Sports Show is the fact that, it could be possible not only the South Southern Conference split apart in regionals, just kind of looking at 3A, but you might see days where finally Mount Vernon and Centralia no longer in the same regional, or finally, we've seen Waltonville and Woodlawn split up into different supers. So, it's amazing how things have changed with the IHSA over the past few years. Busy weekend of sports here on WMIX tonight. Don't forget Cardinal Baseball will take the air on the FM at 7:35 as they take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Heated wild card battle there. St. Louis Rams, after a close loss last week at Detroit on the almost the final play of the game. A nice drive there by Matthew Stafford and the Lions into their hopes of winning their first game of the year under Jeff Fisher. They will take on RG3 and the Washington Redskins tomorrow. Pre-game coverage begins on AM 940 at 2 p.m. It's the Rams, it's the Redskins, it's right here on WMIX. Next week, we'll have plenty of Rams and Lady Rams coverage coming your way. We have the Salem Lady Wildcats and the Mount Vernon Lady Rams on the volleyball court. We'll be on the air at about 7:20 on AM 940. We'll try to bring you video on mywithersradio.com, mobile broadband permitting. Thursday, the Lady Rams welcome Cahokia to Shagnon Gym for volleyball action. Be on the air again about 7:20 there. We will have video on mywithersradio.com, radio coverage right here on WMIX. Mount Vernon Rams football returns to the airwaves next week at Marion. We'll have that game for you. 6:40 is your pregame time here on WMIX. Video online at mywithersradio.com, mobile broadband permitting. Again, we were saying that for obvious reasons, as things have been kind of crazy right now, but it'll all be worth it when it is all said and done. That's going to do it for us today on the Saturday Sports. We'll be back next week, same time after the 8 o'clock news. We'll be on the air till 10 o'clock. We hope you'll join us then. Until then, stay up to date on Facebook, WMIX Sports. You can also stay up to date on Twitter. Follow us there at WMIX Sports. Find our archives on mywithersradio.com. This is WMIX Mount Vernon, NBC News Now.